Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our Tuesday Assembly. I hope you're all well. I hope you all had a lovely Monday, and it's been really lovely seeing some of the work that you've been handing in to your teachers. And I had a chance to go through some of it yesterday and join in a couple of the afternoon meetings, and it was great to see how hard everybody was working. So today I've been thinking about people who help us, people who make a difference. And at the moment, I think that's a particularly important thing to think about. Those people, those key workers, those people who make a real difference to our lives, whether it's doctors or nurses, it's the police and the amazing job that they do, whether it's the firemen, whether it's your teachers, the job that they're doing. Everybody is working so hard at the moment. And I thought it would be nice to start with a story. This is a story about a paramedic. So somebody who drives an ambulance, so helps people when they really need help. And this is about a paramedic called Chris. It was 6 a.m. on a very cold and foggy day in the town of Shadeston. It was time for paramedic Chris to wake up for his shift on duty at the Shadeston Rescue Base. He had a quick breakfast of cereal and coffee before he headed off jogging to work. Meanwhile, paramedic Zara was also getting ready for her shift as part of the ambulance crew. She was a paramedic as well and worked with Chris, saving lives every single day. As it was a Saturday, she left her little boy Luke at home with her mum Sandy. "Mum, do you have to go to work today?" Luke asked. "Yes, but I'll be home tonight. We can have our movie night." Rushed out of the door with a little piece of toast for breakfast. At the rescue base, Chris and Zara had arrived to prepare their medical kit for the day ahead. They set up their radios and called the control room. Chris was number 721 and Zara was 785 on the ambulance control system. That helped the control room know where they were all the time. It was not long before the first call came through on the radio. "Are you receiving, Chris? Over." "Yes, receiving 721 over. There's a lady having breathing problems and feels dizzy at the flats on Brierley Hill, over." "On our way, over." So Chris and Zara set off with blue flashing lights to Brierley Hill. It was on the other side of town, and they arrived within minutes at the block of flats and made their way through to the patient, who was on the 4th floor. It was an old lady called Doreen, and she was breathing very heavily. Chris and Zara took out their equipment and checked Doreen, who was okay after a few small tests. Doreen was very anxious, as she thought she might be having a heart attack. "I've got a pain in my chest and I feel all dizzy and I don't know what to do," she said. Chris realised she was just having a panic attack, so he reassured her that everything was going to be okay. And then Chris said, "Breathe in for 5 seconds and then out for 10 seconds, Doreen." I can't, she said. "Yes, you can. Follow me," Chris said. "Breathe in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Breathe out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Chris and Zara reassured Doreen that she wasn't having a heart attack and slowly but surely made her slow her breathing down and back to a normal rhythm. Zara had to fill in all the paperwork, and after a couple of signatures, they were back in the van for the next call. "Do you think I have time to grab a coffee?" Chris said, spotting the coffee shop below the block of flats. 721, are you receiving, over, came on the radio. "I think that's just answered your question, Chris," said Zara. "Yes, receiving, over. A man has been injured playing football at the football stadium. Are you clear, over?" "Yes, we're on our way, over." The football stadium was far out to the east of Shadeston, and the weather was getting worse. It was foggy, and the visibility was really poor now. "I think we're going to struggle in these conditions, Zara. Let's put on the blue lights and proceed carefully." 721, are you receiving? We have another call to the high street. A boy is injured. Can you go there on your way, over? Right, over. That's strange, Zara said. That's near to where I live. I hope the boy is okay and not a neighbour of mine. I wonder who it could be. Well, if we go this fog, we'll find out, said Chris. The ambulance drove around country lanes, through the thick fog, and made its way to the town and the address that was given on the radio. When they finally arrived, there was no sign of a boy or any commotion on the street. Chris parked up as close as he could. Zara stepped out on the street and asked a few passers-by, but nobody knew anything. Zara was a bit worried that the boy was injured, but they could not see him. Chris, I can't see any boy here. Where did they say he was? The address says Clover Street. It could be a flat above a shop, Chris said. Suddenly, Zara saw her son Luke on his own on the street. What are you doing here, Luke? She gasped. I didn't want to see you, he said. I wanted to see you. You never have any time for me. Did you call 999, Luke? Yes, but I only wanted to speak to you. Luke, Mummy's job is to save people in need. You have stopped us going to somebody who may have broken their leg, and we may have delayed getting to them because of your prank call. Do you need backup, Zara? Chris asked over the radio. No, I'm coming back to the van, she said. So who do we have here then? Chris said when they returned to the ambulance. My son, who wanted to speak to Mummy, Zara said. I'm going to let him travel in the back, Chris, if you don't mind. I don't know where my mum is. She was supposed to be looking after him. Do you want to call her? I'll give her a ring, but first we must get to the football stadium. The guy with the broken leg must be in real agony by now. Yes, definitely. Well, as long as you've learnt your lesson, Luke. Yes, I know. Zara told Luke how dangerous prank calling could be, but let him go with them so as not to leave him on his own. She would speak to her mum later, but there was no time to lose now. The sirens were roaring across the country lanes as they approached the stadium. The nights were drawing in now, and the fog was so thick it felt like it was dark already, but it was only 3 o'clock in the afternoon. They raced to the football pitch, where they saw the man lying down, crying in agony. Chris assessed the situation and checked his vital signs. Zara found out that people at the stadium had actually seen what had happened. The footballer called David had come into a collision with another player and had twisted his leg and had fallen over in an awkward position. Chris put a collar on David, who was feeling very cold and tired as he'd been waiting so long for an ambulance. What took you so long? David's dad asked, who was concerned as his son had been waiting for over an hour. We had a prank call, which was prioritised as more urgent, but it was a no-show. I can't believe some people these days. Who does a thing like that when there are real emergencies? I know. Unfortunately, we receive them quite a lot. Let's get David to the hospital and we can x-ray his leg and check for any broken bones, Chris said. Yes, that's a good idea, Zara said. She looked down at Luke, who looked at her sheepishly. Mum, Luke said. Yes, Luke. I'm sorry for calling you out. I just don't see you at the weekend. I know. Let's finish with this patient and give Nanny a ring, she said. David rushed to the hospital. However, there was a long queue stretching through the corridor. So Chris, Zara and Luke had to stay with him until he was admitted to the nurses in accident and emergency. Zara made a call to her mum, but there was no answer. That's funny. There's no answer, Luke said. Where was Nanny when you left the house? I don't know. She was putting washing out on the line. Something's not right. Can we stop by, Chris? Yes, of course. David was admitted, and after paperwork was completed, they raced back in the ambulance. Zara felt uneasy. Something wasn't right, but she couldn't put her finger on it. When they pulled up to Zara's house, they made their way in and noticed the back door was open, and there was Zara's mum lying unconscious on the floor. Chris, come quick, Zara said. Chris checked that her airway was clear, but she wasn't breathing, so they started CPR. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and he checked her for a pulse. She's got a pulse. Let's get her to the hospital. There's no time to lose. Later that day, Luke went to visit his nanny, who had recovered fully from her fall. She had suffered a minor heart attack, but now Luke was able to see his mum and his nan again, and he felt the best he had felt in ages, and it was so good to see his family back together again. So, 2 things we can take from that story. The amazing paramedics managed to save everybody. Everybody was okay in the end in that story. That's the important thing to remember. But also how serious it is and how you must never, ever make what they call prank calls. So you must never call an ambulance or call the emergency services unless there's actually an emergency. And everybody knows how to do that. Doesn't matter how old you are. We all know that if we have an emergency, if somebody's hurt, or if we need to get hold of the police, or there's a fire, we know we can dial 999, but we must only do that in a serious emergency. So I'm just looking at the comments as I'm chatting, and I'm just reading about Howard talking about how he's got 10,000 bees. Excellent. I shall look forward to some honey from you then, Howard. Anyway, now, while we're thinking about people who help us and key workers, it was one of the things that was lovely was the children in year 1 yesterday actually wrote prayers in their FPE lesson. They wrote some beautiful prayers to thank the people who look after us and who care for us. So I thought it would be really nice to share some of those prayers with you in our assembly today. So the first one is from Soraya. I'm just going to play it now so you can listen to it.
Dear Lord Buddha, thank you for the people who care about us, teachers. Thank you for making our life happy and joyful. Thank you for everything you have done for the world. May all living beings be free from the coronavirus of suffering. From Soraya.
That was beautiful, Soraya. What a lovely prayer you wrote there. And let's hear one now from Aban. And because all the children have written one in year 1, I thought it would be nice to maybe hear 2 or 3 of them every morning this week. So this is from Aban. Let's have a listen.
Dear God, during the coronavirus outbreak, I want to thank you for giving us the key workers. I pray to you for a good health to our NHS staff and carers for helping us when we are sick, for postmen and deliverymen who never fail to deliver our orders, for our policemen and firefighters who help us for our safety, for our shopkeepers who help save us with food and supplies. Amen.
That was lovely, Aban. And finally, we'll hear a poem from Liz.
God, thank you for protecting us from COVID-19. We give you praise. Protect the NHS workers, policemen and women, and everybody. Amen.
Thank you, Liz. What a lovely prayer and what a lovely way to round off our assembly. Now, at 11 o'clock, some of you may know today, there's going to be a minute's silence for all the people, all the carers and all the people in the hospitals and all the other key workers who sadly have passed away, helping keep everybody safe from COVID-19. So it might be nice to stop at 11 o'clock for a minute and think about them. And I'm sure your teachers online will talk more about that. Now, before I leave you, tomorrow I'm going to, the assembly will be, I'm going to be using Teams tomorrow for assembly. I've been using Facebook, YouTube, but I'm going to be moving over to trying to use Teams. It will be a little bit different to when you have a lesson on Teams or registration, because you won't be able to see yourselves on there. It'll be what's called a webinar. So it's more like this, but what it means I can do is I can share people's work, and I can use PowerPoints, and I can put pictures up there and use music, and it will keep everything within Teams. So I've added all of you to my class. So I've got a big class on Teams now, which is you'll have probably seen that you've been added to, and we're going to try it tomorrow. So there may be a few teething problems, a few technical problems, but we're going to see how we get on with it tomorrow. So I'll just post a link as normal, but that link will take you to Teams instead of to YouTube, and then we'll see how it goes. But in the meantime, have a lovely day, work hard, think about those people that help us and make such a difference, and I will see some of you today and all of you tomorrow. Take care.